Sometimes a simple business trip can turn into something else entirely. Back in 1966, a young man flew clear across the country for a pretty high-stakes NASA contract. But what he ended up bringing back wasn't just data. It was a story that would unravel the entire mystery of his own father and honestly change his family forever.
So it all starts with this tiny crack in his father's otherwise perfect composure. Fred Seaver, who is normally this pillar of discipline, is actually visibly nervous. His 23-year-old son Randy is about to fly from California to Massachusetts, and Fred's anxiety, which was so not like him, kind of hints that there's way more on the line here than just a business deal.
You see, Randy's trip really had two missions, and they were running at the same time. The first one, a super high-stakes professional assignment. But the second one? Well, that was a deeply personal quest to connect with a whole side of his family he'd never even met.
Okay, so on the job side of things, Randy was there representing his company, Sunrise Aircraft, in a huge NASA partnership. He was supposed to be observing these critical wind tunnel tests, but his dad, Fred, had given him this second, much more personal job. He was supposed to be his eyes and ears. His mission was to meet his Aunt Jerry and reconnect with the family Fred had left behind 26 years ago.
And everyone in the family had a totally different take on this trip. Fred's instructions were, well, they were kind of vague, almost distant, like a message from an ambassador. His wife Betty's advice was way more practical and down to earth. And his younger brothers? They were just completely blown away that their big brother was so important. He had to fly across the entire country for work. So Randy lands in Massachusetts and is immediately dropped right into this whole other world, the world of the Seaver family he'd only ever heard stories about. This is where that personal mission really truly kicks off.
And the key to unlocking this world was his Aunt Jerry. Fred had described her as the keeper of the Seaver family information. I mean, she was basically the family's central hub, the one person who kept everyone connected, no matter how scattered they were. Randy had never met her, but she was about to become his guide into his father's secret past.
And the timing? It couldn't have been more perfect. Jerry takes Randy to a family party that was celebrating his cousin Peter's return from a 2-year tour in Vietnam. The house was just packed with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, and none of them knew the stoic, disciplined man from California. Oh no, they knew a completely different person, the boy he was when he grew up right there in Massachusetts.
And this is where everything changes. Randy, being the exotic visitor from California, suddenly becomes the center of attention. And he's the sole audience for this flood of stories about the father he thought he knew so well.
So the big question on everyone's mind, and especially on Randy's, was what was his dad really like as a kid? And let me tell you, his relatives were more than happy to fill in all the blanks. And the picture they painted was, well, let's just say it was unexpected.
The difference was absolutely stunning. See, Randy knew his father as this methodical, super serious man. But his relatives? They described someone else entirely. A fun-loving, rebellious kid who was a star athlete. And, as Randy later put it, pretty darn popular with the young ladies. But out of all the stories they told, one just stood out. It came with a nickname. A nickname so funny and so revealing that it would become a total legend in the California branch of the Seaver family, the Golden Glow. And here's the story behind it. Get this. As a boy, young Fred had this rebellious streak against indoor plumbing. Yeah, he just refused to use the toilet. He preferred to, let's just say, water the plants along a brook behind their house. And this little act of childhood defiance earned him that unforgettable title, the Golden Glow.
So, armed with some pretty disappointing professional news, but a total treasure trove of family stories, Randy flies back to California. And it's right there at the family dining room table where the two missions of his trip finally collide.
Randy starts with the business update. He reports to Fred that the wind tunnel tests, they didn't go well. The data was discouraging, a real potential setback for his company and for the NASA project. It's a very serious professional moment, but that seriousness is about to get completely shattered.
Because right after that, Randy tells the family stories, and when he gets to the Golden Glow, his mother, Betty, just erupts in laughter, louder than anyone had heard her laugh in months. I mean, the image of her stoic husband as this rebellious, toilet-avoiding kid is just too much to handle.
And Fred, caught somewhere between total embarrassment and, a little bit of pride, he can only offer this sheepish defense. It seemed perfectly logical at the time. And in that one moment, the disciplined father figure just cracks, and you can see the 12-year-old boy that's still inside him. And look, this wasn't just some funny story.
It was a revelation. That single story, and all the others Randy brought back with him, it permanently changed how Fred's wife and son saw the man they lived with every single day.
Before the trip, he was Fred the father, an authority figure defined by his roles as a disciplinarian, a coach, and insurance agent. But after the trip, he was suddenly Fred the person, a complex human being with a mischievous past, a passionate youth, and a whole history his sons had never even imagined. He wasn't just a two-dimensional figure anymore.
These stories became part of the family's identity, you know? The golden glow was now the go-to joke. Any talk of Fred's supposed endless string of girlfriends was used to gently tease him about his own son's dating lives. The stories didn't make him smaller, they made him so much more real.
But underneath all the laughter, there was this really quiet, vulnerable moment. After hearing all about his family back east, Fred quietly asked Randy, "Did they ask why I never came back?" And wow, that one question held 26 years of distance, of regret, and so many unspoken feelings.
Randy reassured him that they understood, that they'd love to see him. And in that simple exchange, you realize what the trip's true success was. It was never about the wind tunnel. It was about bridging the 3,000 miles that had separated a family for a whole generation.
So ultimately, the NASA project and its disappointing results, they had just became a footnote. What truly mattered was the human connection that was rediscovered. Randy's trip might have been a technical failure, but it was a profound, life-changing personal success.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Every single family has these stories, these little moments of revelation that can completely change how we see the people we think we know best. So, I gotta ask, what's the story from your own family's past that changed everything?